to be here with you guys today and interviewing my buddy and Andrew Garfield, who is staggering in a really beautifully heartfelt and to you today. And I feel like as old friends, we've never actually really talked much about acting. So here goes.
Grows an extra size whenever I get to talk about him and whenever I get to share the ripples of his work. So I'm just so happy that we're doing this right now.
So then
so special, especially for the SAG audience that we have here. It's like, because this film is kind of the story of every SAG card carrying member, in terms of the journey that Jonathan goes on and everything that he symbolizes. I know that you and I feel deep identification with Jonathan. I'm pretty sure everyone on this Q&A is gonna have their own version of the Jonathan Larson story, so it's very, very special to be here with you, and I'm really well. And to be honest, these things can be quite stressful, or as we were talking about earlier, you repeat the same answers, the same questions. But actually, for maybe the first time in my life, talking about John it just never gets old.
And I remember you were living quite a monastic life then, just to get through the
is on Greg's table one day, and Lynn says, "Hey buddy, you're really good friends with Andrew. Do you know if he can sing?" And Greg, being the great he is, just lied through his teeth and said, "Yes, he's the greatest singer since sliced bread, and he's a mixture between Jennifer Hudson and Ariana Grande and Pavarotti, whatever." And as soon as Lynn left the room, Greg calls me and says, "Hey buddy, can you sing?"
Wow.
And because now you have to, because my reputation is on the line as a liar or otherwise. And then so I ended up meeting up with Lynn, and he asked me himself, and I said, "Well, when do you
wait, stop there quickly. In between that moment with Greg and then meeting Lin-Manuel, did you go and have singing lessons, or did you?
I didn't have the time. With my idol, and then he kind of he said, he slid across the music and lyrics of Tick Tick Boom to me across the table, and he said, "This won't make sense to you right now, but I promise you it will." And it was this most beautiful moment, because I didn't know I had this long lost brother in Jonathan Larson. I didn't know that I had it was like being reunited with as I say, a long lost brother. And in art, in heart, in ethics, in kind of a revolutionary longing to change things, in a kind of an understanding of what matters in life in terms of community, in terms of the dignity of all human beings, the sacredness and the shortness of life, his awareness of those things. But also the problem is I had never sung. I had Will Smith's Miami.
No.
He knew it. No one else did, but he did. And it wasn't until after he passed away that everyone finally woke up to what he was bringing. So yeah, for me, I was like, okay, yeah, I can sing, sure. It's like, no, it's beyond singing. It's like, it's using singing to change the world. And I think that challenge was the thing that excited me the most, but also, of course, was like, then we start the journey and we go, well, am I going to get there? Am I going to be able to fully ever honor this soul that was so important, continues to be so important to so many? You really were an art history major, weren't you? You were.
Talk about that colorblind one.
Colorblind art history major, but and I cannot fucking wait, because I hear it's just transcendent. Such a beautiful moment of spontaneity, and at the end of this, so we were shooting that in the middle of COVID, and in the end of that number, we got that in the can, and it was in the middle of the night. We had 30 minutes left on the clock, and Lynn comes in full covered in PPE and he says, "I'm gonna DJ. Mike is gonna have a steady cam, handheld camera party." Just party and make out and dance on each other and breathe in each other's faces, because we were all so starved of human contact, so starved of the things that John was writing about and fighting for, that we all just went mad for 30 minutes and just played, and we knew exactly how to be, and the camera just picks it up, and it was kind of like that. So every morning Lynn and I would get together and we'd be like, so where does John want to take us today? And we really allowed him to lead through us, through me as the vessel, and through him with the camera. Years of doing it now, I'm old enough and foolish enough to go, hello, old friend. I put my arm around him and I say, okay, we could throw ourselves in the river, or we could just take another step back into the rehearsal room and try again. And it's all that. Because I realized early on that, like, that feeling you think you're going to die if you walk on stage, it's like, oh my God, I'm literally going to explode if I go on right now. I have nothing to give. I feel empty. I'm a fraud, all the imposter syndrome stuff. But then I realized early on, actually, I'm going to die if I don't. Like, there's a part of my soul or my heart that's going to fade if I don't actually put myself in the firing line. So I try and take that, use it as a fuel, use it as a kind of a tailwind. It can be a tailwind of fear. And so with those people, with the people in his life, and not to mention that they were all the most supportive, like Julie especially. Julie Larson just wants John to keep living. So
the gesture of the broken wall is it's literal formal. It was so beautiful, really. Elements, just because. Did you shoot the point of view?
No, I love it. I mean, like, I love that question. So we started before the pandemic. We got through the first 2 weeks to a week and a half of shooting, and then Tom Hanks got COVID and the NBA shut down, and we were like, maybe we should take this seriously. And I remember, we've been building up, and I was getting my voice ready and working with the amazing Liz Kaplan and all of Lynn's amazing team. And then I see on the schedule at the end of the first week a scene scheduled, and it's the song "Why" in the Delacorte Theatre in Central Park, the emotional crux.
No, shut up.
Of Jonathan Larson.
Oh, wait a second.
In Tick Tick Boom, and I say to Lynn, I'm like, what's this, baby? And he's like, oh, yeah, no, we're doing that at the end of the first week. I'm like, what? No, what are you talking about? And it's the hardest thing, and just like, we're gonna bang it out. And like, I remember on Mary Poppins Returns, like, I was given my hardest number in the first week, and it just set me up for the rest of the thing. I was like, no. Why are we doing this in the first week? Tell me the truth. And he said, because we're gonna lose the location unless we do it in the first week. And I'm like, thank you for your honesty. I'm not happy with you right now. I have to go and train. And then, but also the two things were true, because there were a few songs we needed to do live. I really wanted to do live, and that was one of them. That song, Why, because it's found. I'm finding it as I go. It's an improvised song. It's using John's gift to meet this impossible moment of loss, this impossible moment of devastation, and the only way through is the piano and music, without him feeling like he's going to combust. So it had to be, and we did a pre-record of all the songs. I have the pre-record in my ear, and it's clean. It's like a clean, sweet version of the song that doesn't feel at all dangerous. It doesn't feel raw. It doesn't feel alive. It doesn't feel like this man may not make it through this song. And so I say to Lynn, can we start on close up, and can we just bash out 3 or 4 takes of a live performance on close up, because you never know what you're going to get in the first few takes. And he was so up for that, and the whole crew was so amazing, and Julie Larson was there at the monitor. And we were in the Delacorte Theatre in the middle of the night in Central Park, week 1. And take 1 was okay. And take 2 was that feeling that we what that was. And then you're kind of dependent on people around you to let you know. And Lynn was the first face I saw, and he's sobbing. And I'm like, okay. Phew, fucking, that's so cool. And then the sound mixer, which never, I mean, like, this guy's amazing, this sound mixer. He's like, that's the take we have to use. Convince Lynn it has to be live, it has to be live, it has to be live. So I think Lynn was right. Like, I then felt like the rest could be under my belt, because that was absolutely the hardest acting moment, the hardest vocal moment, piano, like, it was a whole thing. And it was like, and then we shut down for the pandemic, and if I had that looming over me, like, I might have lost my mind, because I was, we'd built up to be so pregnant with expressing John's story, that I'm so grateful that we managed. And Julie just giving me a hug, and it's much easier to feel protection over John, and the responsibility of playing. I just think it adds. Like, I was recently playing, the last thing I did, which isn't out yet, is I was playing a Mormon police officer in Utah, who was having a crisis. But I think that's what the beauty of what we do as storytellers and as actors, and that's where it feels like surface, and especially when those moments that you just described of being totally out of yourself but totally in yourself, those moments of divine dissatisfaction where you're so close to the thing, and it combines with that sense of responsibility and service to an audience, to reflect an audience's experience, to reflect the experience of being human beings, and to connect our collective experience of being human beings. That's when our lives become most meaningful. And whenever I think about that, whenever I go, if I could just make theater in a black box for an audience of 10 for the rest of my life, with great people and great words and great ideas, I'm going to be deeply satisfied for the rest of my life. And that is a gift, to have that as a kind of foundation.
From Ty, is there a specific song in Tick Tick Boom that struck you most emotionally, and why?
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 Why? Well, no, the song is Why. It's that song in the Delacour, and I wish I could say every song, because I love every song. And a song that I actually don't sing is one of my favorites as well. Come to Your Senses, the Alex Shipp and Vanessa Hudgens duet on, which is just like barnstorming kind of like, wow, just incredible mix of voices and epic kind of swelling music. But Why is that song? Because it's a ritual. It transcends a beautiful song. It becomes a ritual for John, and it became a ritual for me in terms of, and it still is a ritual for me if I need it, in terms of integrating loss, in terms of living with loss, living with death. Obviously for John, he's finally accepting the possibility of his best friend not being alive for a lot longer, and maybe simultaneously accepting that his life, in some unconscious way, he knows is going to be short. He's being initiated into an awareness that life is so sacred and so short, and the notes we have to sing are so finite, and if we're lucky, we leave here with a half-finished song. And as I've shared with you, and as I've shared previously, I lost my mother before we started shooting, and of course, no one more important to me in my life. So that song, that night in the Delacour, with Julie there, with John's spirit there, it was also a way of me, another night of me ritualizing and processing this impossible loss to process and ritualize, that I will be doing for the rest of my life, in terms of the loss of the person that gave me life, my mother, Lynn Garfield. And so that song, like this film, for John's friends and family, give John back to them for a couple of hours in whatever degree. That song will be another way of me having my mum back for moments. Just like if I've taken up knitting recently, and yeah, I know, and because my mother was a really big knitter, and like, wow, the image that I have, one of the indelible images of my mother, is we would watch movies every Christmas, and she would be half watching, half knitting a new cardigan for her grandkids. So when I pick up my knitting needles and I'm making a tea cozy for a friend or whatever, like I'm half watching a movie, I can feel my mum in my veins, in the same way that if I listen to that song Why, or sing that song Why, it's a way of keeping the grief close to me, and it's a way of keeping her spirit close to me. So yeah, that for sure.
Secondly, Just I'm going to go on to one last question from, but I just wanted to shout out your co-actors, because Mike, do you have any advice for young artists who have a similar frustration to Jonathan in Tick Tick Boom?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear your answer to this as well, Eddie, but I think the answer is in the film, I think the answer is in the film. The answer is in Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. If no one on the Zoom haven't read Letters to a Young Poet, it's the thing that was given to me at drama school. It's the thing I go back to when I have those dark nights of the soul, and I'm like, do I have, I was unemployed for a year and a half, and I was doing odd jobs, and I was telemarketing, and I was making coffee at Starbucks, and that was the year and a half that was my kind of, version of what John experiences with the rejection and the kind of the forbidding nature of the industry that he goes through in Tick Tick. But it's, if we feel like we have no choice but to do what we do, if it feels like a calling, if it feels like a thread that we can't let go of, and if we let go of it, we might just lose ourselves, then we must act. Then we must make music. We must tell stories, and it's a spiritual calling to me. It's a vocation, and if we feel so deeply compelled, and I think that's one of the things that Lynn talks about when he watched Tick Tick for the first time off Broadway, and he had to go for a walk around the East Village and just kind of get lost for a while. It was as if Jonathan Larson was asking him from the other side, are you sure? Are you sure you've got what it takes? Because that girl that you just saw the show with, she's going to get a real job, and you're not going to last in this relationship. And a bunch of your friends are going to get real jobs, quote unquote real jobs, and they're going to give up their dreams. But are you sure? And you're going to get rejection after rejection after rejection. You're going to have to work 8 odd jobs, and you're going to have to, in order to keep your dream alive, are you sure? And if after all of that kind of, so that's what I love about this film, is that it's the story of a failure. It's the story of a big, fat failure after years, almost a decade of work and devotion and graft and poverty. And then he still decides to start writing the next one, and thank God he did, because it was Rent. And he left the world richer. He didn't get to receive any of the harvest or any of the flowers, but he knew somewhere deep down he had to write. Just like Rilke says in Letters to a Young Poet. And I think this is a little message in a bottle, this film, for all young artists. And that's what's been so moving, is to have young artists going, oh God, I'm really scared, but now I know what I have to do. And then it's up to us as a community to actually make sure that we all have the opportunity to do the thing that we're meant to do, whether it's through, education opportunities or, financial opportunities. And that's where a kind of level playing field must be created. So anyway, there's no easy answer, but I wonder what you think, Eddie, as well.
And I think where you were pushing to towards the end, again, about mentorship, which is so held in this piece, Sondheim's relationship. We haven't talked about Bradley Whitford, who played Sondheim's beautiful, but even talking to one of my closest pals is a musical theatre writer from New York, and he and I were talking about the film the other day, and he told me, he never told me before, that Sondheim had sent him a note after one of his workshop, and the fact that and clearly that idea of mentorship is so important. Matey, you're so beautiful, and thanks to everyone watching and listening, and yeah, bravo, man.
I love you so much, Eddie. You're the best, you're my brother. And thank you, everyone, for being here. This has been really beautiful to share it with you guys. Thanks so much. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. See you guys. Bye.